This is the Whatever You're Into podcast. Coming to you live from...
How can it's not live?
It's live to us.
It's not, well, okay.
So yeah, okay.
Is that
Introduce
the
yourself.
intro? I don't know if that's good enough, but... Well,
I don't know, it's a pretty good representation of how we're doing this morning.
Yeah.
It's been a rough one.
Well, hey, this wasn't my idea.
Shut the fuck up. It was everybody's idea to
How
some
do you-
degree.
you don't
We all said yes.
We all said yes.
you don't just
and we
get
all made
away
it
with
here.
everything just because it wasn't your idea. Welcome to the Whatever You're Into podcast, the podcast where we talk about
Whatever you're into.
whatever you're into.
The name kind of it does all the heavy lifting.
We're we're three vanilla men.
We are
Hey, I'm
three
actually
cis-
surprisingly vanilla.
We're
cis
surprisingly
white men.
vanilla. Yes.
Yeah.
Three cis white straight men
millennials.
and one wild card.
One, whatever you are.
Wild
I would
card.
call myself a wild
Identify
card.
yourself, wild card.
You are very vague when you talk about your sexuality, I feel like most of the time.
On purpose.
Well, what do you want to know?
I don't want to know anything, but
Thank you. We got Mesky over here. We got Marquise over here. Manny, and Mr.
Hello.
Meaty.
No, don't say my name.
What do you
no,
want?
Mr.
I
Meaty.
don't want a name.
He doesn't want a name.
Not
me alone.
even a mister.
Just tee me up for a hello and
All right.
leave me be.
So today's episode, our guy is into a lot of stuff, and
Aren't we
I
all?
found him because of the latex guy, Satellite. So he's into latex, rubber, all that kind of stuff, but we obviously already covered that. So I think we're going to talk about breath play and vacuum bondage were the exact words that he used to describe it last night.
breath play.
Breath play, I'm assuming
They like the
suffocation,
sound?
choking,
Okay, that
kind
makes
of
more
stuff.
sense. Choking and stuff makes more sense. I was like, just holding your breath.
Play.
Well, I'm
yeah, holding breath
assuming-
probably, yeah.
I'm assuming
What was the other
fucking
one?
You going old school?
vacuum bondage.
Oh, I've seen some of that stuff
Yeah.
before.
And then also,
That looks
vacuum
scary,
So what?
claustrophobic.
Basically, like fucking like
Skin
air sealing
fucking
your food?
tight. It's all over. You just have like a mouthful. Sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it changes. But yeah, there's like just a mouthful and it's skin tight like latex.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Like
looks scary.
like vacuum,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah, you get
seal
vacuum.
food.
It's like
and
Han
shit,
Solo
right?
in
exactly.
carbonite.
That's what I was gonna say. What's your Han Solo looking ass?
As it sucks in on you.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Ugh.
Why does it make noise to you?
it,
Because
to suck
vacuums
up-
fucking
vacuum,
make
yeah,
noise?
it's, all
No, I
pumps-
mean the other part. You're like,
You're losing.
Because it's
your
literally
lungs are getting
squeezing the
squished.
air out of you. I don't
not
know.
unless you're doing it. You control your breath. Anyway.
Yeah,
So
well,
but
that's
is
the
that
thing,
not
though.
the point?
During breath play, you don't
Seemingly?
control your breath.
Breath. Oh, is
Somebody
that what
else
that means?
controls
It's
your
not
breath.
just
Kinda
like
like the
someone
heart
breathing up
thing
in
or
your
something,
face
I
or
don't know.
something
Yeah.
like a dog.
Okay.
Mints are popular in this community.
Like when a dog's really excited to see you, it's just like all up in your face. Breath play.
Oh, yeah, I was
Yep.
thinking because like I
Nope, that's
guess
gonna
maybe
turn people on.
they like the sound of somebody breathing or like the act of it or
Right.
I would assume
but
it has to do with like
like it's
choking and
hot and
suffocation.
moist.
And all
maybe
that
it's a
kind of
very
stuff.
wide net cast. I don't know.
And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad.
Yeah.
What if they like stinky breath play?
Yeah, I prefer stinky breath play.
What if they go too far? Choke somebody out to death?
I mean, geez.
I wonder if they'd like UFC.
It's like, yeah.
Watching people get
a
choked
good
out.
guillotine getting hard as a rock. Okay, that sounds cool. So should we?
Let's call them up, man.
We've made this person wait an extra hour.
Yes, that's all right. I
But
think
it's
he's
better.
all right
It's a
with that.
Sunday, dude. It's the
Sunday.
Lord's Day. We're
The
supposed
Lord's
to rest
Day.
today. It's the Sabbath.
It is. So what name would you like to go by? Chronic?
Yeah, that works.
All
Yeah,
right.
Chronic Orca, either of those work.
Chronic or okay.
So we've only just heard what your kink is. What would you call it in your own words?
Oh, well, it is amongst a myriad of kinks of mine that I have. It's definitely one of my biggest, and it's also kind of a lifestyle. Well, kink itself for me is very much a lifestyle. It's a very important part of my sexual identity.
Metsky was telling us. So you're specifically into. He said breath play and
Vacuum bondage.
vacuum bondage. Is that like what the bulk of our conversation is going to be about?
We can talk about any of them too if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to discuss any or all of it.
Yeah, we've covered on latex and rubber before, so I mean, we're welcome to cover it again because I think that everybody kind of experiences this shit a little bit differently. So your story's obviously going to be a little bit different than Satellites, so I think we should definitely touch on that. But let's start with breath play. You said that's kind of your main one.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my top kinks for sure.
And what does that consist of?
So it all really kind of depends on what you do. Like there are a number of different ways to practice breath play. So, for some people it could be choking, for some it could be a bag over the head, or it could be a rebreather bag attached to a mask, or somebody could be vacuum packed in, one of those mattress vacuum bags or in a vac bed. So yeah, there's a variety of ways to experience it, even by using diving equipment and breathing apparatus.
By diving equipment? So you're pulling out like full scuba sets for this shit?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
It's a land scuba diver, I guess.
So I'm assuming part of the aspect of it is that somebody else has control over your breathing or vice versa. Is that kind of what I'm understanding?
Yes, and being a switch, definitely both. I also actually did both last night.
Okay.
Nice.
So you said you did both last night. Let's maybe jump in. What did that exactly consist of?
All right. Well, I'm staying over at a friend's place right now, and one of my friends, his mates, his boyfriend had experienced a little bit of breath play with me prior, but last night I went ahead and ran him through the gauntlet. So I tied him to a chair.
Okay.
And
good start.
And I used a variety of bags over his head, and even just holding my hand over his nose and mouth. And he had quite a bit of fun with all of it. Basically, what I did is I immobilized him in the chair, with his wrist behind him and his ankles tied to the legs. And then I'd have one of the things I like to have people do is take a series of very deep and slow breaths. That way, that slows their heart rate and it allows them to last longer when they rebreathe, because they're generating less carbon dioxide. So it's more fun for both of us. And then I put the bag over his head, and then I would use either a collar or string or rubber band or something to make a nice seal around the neck, so that he was rebreathing his lung full of air inside the bag. And the point of doing this is some of us get a huge rush from the feeling of oxygen depletion, because there's a bit of a body high that comes with it, and it can generate some feel goods, especially if you're into it. So,
all right, that sounds intense.
One thing you mentioned that
I
picked up on, you said you used a variety of bags. What do you mean by that? Are there like certain bags that do something different, or what does that mean?
Like a grocery bag?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So it really kind of depends. Like some people, because I'm into a variety of breath play equipment, not just bags, but for some people they like the really thin poly, like the produce bags that you get at the grocery store. They like the really, really, really thin ones that suck to your face real nice and, real tight. And then others like the thicker stuff. I like it all, honestly. One of my favorite things is using like a 24-inch beach ball as the rebreather bag.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm also very big into inflatables. So
hey, you and Mesky got that in common. That's
more
awesome.
And more, man.
Very cool.
Okay. I'll show you my dragon suit sometime.
I think you did send me a picture of it.
Oh, absolutely.
I think you did. Yeah, fairly certain you did.
Nice.
And I guess why we discussed this, is there like just so I can like kind of follow along, is there like a resource you use? There's like a subreddit for this or something where we can kind of like visualize what we're discussing?
To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if there is a subreddit. However, my Twitter absolutely has, the majority of my content is breath play stuff.
Okay.
So
we can go right on your Twitter and take a look. We want.
Yeah. It's closed account, but if you follow me, then I'll make sure and add you.
Okay. I don't use Twitter, so it'll be up to these guys if they want to do that. We'll figure it out though at the end. But I guess when did you realize that you were into this? Like, what was
the origin story?
Yeah, the origin story, man.
Oh, I would have to say it was definitely when I was young, probably maybe 10, 11 years old. I've just gotten into pool toys a few years prior to that. I'm a very, very early bloomer.
All right.
And I had one of those Intex sharks from back in the day, the big ass 96-inch tiger shark.
Oh yeah, I know
still
what you're
this day.
About.
Yeah, my favorite ride-on still. And what I used to do was I would take the tips of the pectoral fins and tie them to the snout. And I would half inflate the toy, and then when I would lay in it and put my head inside, everything would inflate around me and just enclose around my face. And I really, really enjoyed the feeling And there were a few times I did put a bag over my head as well.
Okay.
And also enjoyed that feeling very much.
Okay.
And I realized then that there was a little something deeper going on.
So it was more or less self-exploration. It wasn't like anybody else. You had like some type of experience that caused it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we talk to people, there is like trauma involved. And when I think of breath play and suffocation, it almost makes me think that there was maybe some of that. But I mean, obviously it seems like more of a self-exploration thing for you and that you necessarily didn't go anything through like that, which is probably a good thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I would say it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's actually been something I've encountered as well in the kink community.
Yeah.
I've kind of developed a reputation for being somebody people trust, especially when it comes to breath play. And I've worked with people who were trying it basically again for the first time after having a traumatic experience. Either with a dom or they got choked out or they were experienced some form of abuse. And that pulled them away from it, made it really hard for them. But I was able to kind of help them work through that. But yeah, it can be trauma induced, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I mean that was kind of the first thing that came to my mind.
You kind of touched on, but there's a lot of trust involved here.
Because you could literally kill someone doing this shit wrong.
There's like a definite dangerous component. How do you kind of like ride that safely? You know, get to indulge without that potential risk? Because I mean, I assume it's a kind of fine line. That
I'm assuming you have to know like warning signs, like if this person is legitimately maybe because everybody's different. Everybody's built
CPR
different.
Certified.
You know, I'm.
Right. I actually am CPR certified. Yeah.
Right on.
And I was married to a nurse for 5 years, cardiac ICU nurse. So,
nice.
All right.
So you're in good hands.
Yeah, well, I'm in better hands now. That
That's good.
anyway.
We can get into that later if we want.
Yep. Sometimes things change, but
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are absolutely some basics of safety when it comes to breath play. The number one rule of breath play is you do not ever do anything solo that requires you to undo anything. I'm just gonna say you really shouldn't do anything solo whatsoever.
Yeah.
But
Shouldn't do
there are
heroin
people
solo,
who
too.
like they can't help it. And the
true.
thing that I always tell people is if you're gonna do something solo, it has to be something where all you have to do to undo it is let go.
Yep.
Like if you're holding a mask up to your face, literally your safety is all you have to do is let go of it and you can breathe air again. If you have to undo a collar or you're hanging yourself off a door and you just have to stand up a little bit, that's not going to work. You can die that way.
Oh yeah.
It's
People do
very,
die that
very
way.
serious business. As far as safety with other people, there are some basics. So carbon dioxide will start to build up in the body gradually, and it can take the body a while to get rid of it. So for instance, in repeated breath play scenes, or in repeated rebreathing scenes where somebody's rebreathing their air over and over, each time they, take a breath, clearly they're going to add more carbon dioxide. They're going to place oxygen with carbon dioxide. Well, that builds up in the body. And after a certain point, that can start to cause carbon dioxide poisoning. So when doing repeated rebreathing scenes like that, usually after a cycle or two, especially if it's very intense, I'll give that person a couple of minutes to reoxygenate. Because like last night, for instance, I pulled the hood off my friend, and a couple times that we did this, his lips were purple, which is very hot to me and him. But that's something that, you take your time with that. There are forms of breath play that involve mixing gases, such as nitrous oxide. Some people even mix oxygen and carbon dioxide, but those last two especially, I highly recommend to leave to people who are very experienced with mixing gases. Divers come to mind. The vast majority of them are very much into breath play. And people who understand how these gases work and affect the body and using modern equipment. So I don't fuck with carbon dioxide or oxygen. I just use nitrous as in whippets and poppers.
Oh yeah.
And that, stay within your lane. That's another big part of breath play safety. Don't do something if you're not exactly sure how to do it right.
Yeah. That's fair.
So divers are just using that as an excuse to do breath play, really?
Yeah.
They don't care?
I think
honestly, the diving equipment has its own memes about breath play.
All right.
Fuck the water. I just want to...
Gotta add that extra step of being underwater.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing. It's actually a huge fantasy of mine. I haven't gotten to do it
being
yet.
underwater.
Okay.
Oh really?
All right.
That's interesting. So basically though, like, and just because obviously we're noobs to this, you're like hyperventilating basically, right? When you're doing it, is that correct?
Or just suffocating, right?
Well, yeah, it depends. Because right now I've been chatting primarily about rebreathing, which is one of the more comfortable means of breath play. But yeah, I'll definitely get to total breathlessness here in a second.
Okay.
But yeah, with free breathing, you will hyperventilate toward the end, yes. But the point of doing it itself you're not purposely trying to hyperventilate, but it is part of the process. As your body starts to panic and air hunger starts to grow. And the appeal to hardcore breath play when it comes to that is, despite the fact that it becomes a very painful experience, it becomes very painful. You become consumed by fear. Your body wants nothing more than to reoxygenate. And some of us actually kind of get off on that fear, which it just adds to the thrill of it all. And as your body's losing oxygen, you start to feel a little bit of weightlessness, a little bit of euphoria, and then once you reoxygenate, it's almost like a full body orgasm. I actually experienced last night for the first time passing out via asphyxia right as he was pulling the hood off, and when I reoxygenated, it was a whole body rush. It was very much like a full body orgasm. It was very intense and very, very fun.
All right.
Okay, so the end goal is that body feeling. That's what you're kind of chasing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely. Yep. That's a good way to put it.
Interesting. The fear part sounds kind of scary. I'm sure that's a huge barrier to get over, I assume.
Yeah.
How long would it take for something like that for the fear to set in?
Yeah,
is there a better word for that?
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
There's other mental factors involved too. For instance, it's an enormous means of control over somebody.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much into BDSM and I'm a switch. So I can be dom sub either way. I tend to dom quite a bit, but it's very much a form of control, which adds mentally to the rest of this. Sorry, 1 second, just lost my spot again.
No, you're good.
But yeah. It's that. Hang on, can you reiterate your question? I'm sorry, I just totally lost my spot.
We're just kind of like that.
It was kind of like two questions, actually.
How long is this process? Like, let's say you're beginning this rebreathing. Is this like a 5-minute thing, 10-minute thing? And
okay, all right, yeah. So I'll answer that first part. Yeah.
Okay.
So usually people, if somebody's inexperienced and they're first starting, usually within a minute or so, they start to experience that bit of panic. They can feel that they're running out of air and they start to get that hunger for oxygen. People who are very experienced at this, such as myself, we can go up to about 2 minutes. Once you start approaching the 2-minute mark, for most people, that's when you have to really start watching over them, especially if they're wanting to push themselves hard. That's one of my other tenets of safety is you never, ever, ever take your eyes off a sub when they're in breath play, ever. Never walk away from them. But yeah, you keep a close eye on them, especially after they surpass that 2-minute mark, because once you approach the 3-minute mark, and especially beyond 3 minutes, that's pass out territory. That's when somebody can pass out purely from asphyxia. And generally speaking, if somebody does pass out, as soon as you remove that restriction, they'll start breathing again, and things are good. But it's not a process where it's almost never a process where somebody would just pass out like without warning. There's gonna be a lot of warning. There's gonna be a lot of struggling. There might be screaming and panic and stuff like that, which to me, I'm highly sadistic, so that kind of thing is very hot to me.
Okay.
Interesting. So you want to push it as far as you can, get away with as much as possible, and
within reason, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. What is the longest you can possibly go with that? Like,
I guess what's the longest you have gone?
Oh yeah, that's
how
a better
long
question.
did Houdini do it?
I don't know.
A few seconds
Honestly,
too long.
Man, I don't know that I've ever been timed, or I've been timed a few times, but not like last night was actually as far as I've ever gone, and
damn,
I'm not exactly sure how far I went. The person who was doming me at the time wants to say approximately 2 minutes.
Okay,
cool.
Damn, so we got you off a record, dude. You're probably feeling pretty fucking good.
Yeah, that was incredible. Absolutely, it was a great experience.
Okay. Yeah, this sounds I mean, you're clearly being very safe and you're being responsible, but it does sound fucking scary. I'll be honest with you. It sounds like you're playing with fire.
I guess that's the whole point, though.
Absolutely scary, and that's part of the thrill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, the only experience I've had anywhere within this realm is like one of those bong gas masks.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
Or the
fun.
time machine in Matt's barn.
Yeah, you like take the first hit and you're like, yeah, this is fucking dope, and you're like, there's no air in here. It's like, man, if you
been there before.
Yeah,
Yep.
although I do love me some whippets, so I've definitely.
Yes, whippets are fucking king.
I've definitely.
So how do you involve the nitrous oxide whippets? What does that look like for rebreathing or anything else?
So, and here's another one where I want to advise some safety on this as well.
Okay.
My personal rule of thumb is I'll almost never use more than one whippet at once. Generally, I use it with rebreathers. And I'll also, like, I've got some airtight hazmat suits. Those are also incredibly fun to do breath play with. When you put, for instance, you put somebody in a hazmat suit, you pump it full of whippets or whatever, that's called gassing. When you use whippets, oxygen, carbon dioxide, like I said, I don't mess with the last two, but yet. But so, I'll usually use one canister of whippets, pump it full of that, and if it's in a rebreather mask or whatever, then what I'll do is I'll have them take a breath before we start this, and then I'll pump the rebreather bag full of whippets, and then I'll have them exhale, and then I'll put the bag over their face so that when they inhale, they're inhaling just the whippets back, and they're rebreathing that over and over back and forth. And it absolutely is a very euphoric feeling. It's a very peaceful feeling. Leaves your body very heavy and tingly, but light at the same time. It's kind of hard to describe.
Yeah.
Something you kind of have to experience, but if you're familiar with whippets, and you pretty much know what that's like.
I'm very
Yes.
familiar.
Mesky has had a lot of experience with whippets. Probably done the most whippets out of anybody I've known times 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mesky likes to go until, do 2 or 3 whippets at once, get the purple lips, start basically seizing out. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Got a 20-pound tank.
He's a fucking liability, is what I'm saying.
Oh my god.
My last whippet I did, I cracked my head on the ground and fucking got a scar from it.
I can
It's been
see
a
it
while.
right now.
It's a
It's
big
AKA
badass
been a
scar,
month.
though. Scars are sick.
Yeah. I watched a friend do whippets in a bar stool, or a friend was doing whippets in a bar stool next to me at his house, and I watched him stare at me right before passing over.
Yep.
Passing out.
Yeah.
I knew not to do him in that chair, man. I knew not to do him in that chair.
Yeah, he passed right out on the floor, staring up at me, seizing out, and I'm like, "We're not doing whippets in the chair anymore."
Yeah, this is a couch activity,
Dude.
motherfucker.
I'm just going to get sidetracked for a second. The best drug combination is
gosh.
OPCE, which is a research chemical dissociative, and then LSD and nitrous.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's literally
That
like time
sounds pretty
travel.
fun.
Oh my God. It's the most insane time I've ever had.
So do you dabble with other drugs in this? Do you smoke weed and do this, or what? Or is it just mostly like nitrous if you're fucking around with something?
Oh no, absolutely, weed is included. Actually, I'll describe a particularly fun scene I did one time, which was so I'm also, amongst my many other fetishes, I'm very big into hazmat gear and heavy rubber, including dive gear and all that. And one of the other elements of breath play, as I mentioned earlier, was hazmat suits, especially when they're airtight. There gives me many different possibilities. And what we did one time, I want to say this was probably 12 years ago, my first ex put me in that hazmat suit, and then he hooked a pump with a bowl of weed on the end of it to the suit.
Nice.
And then, I had him pump up the suit with me locked inside until it was nice and tightly inflated and full of milky white pot smoke. And then I had to lay there in that suit, zipped up, airtight, rebreathing that pot smoke over and over for about half an hour. And it was the highest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
That is the most insane hotbox I've ever heard of. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yep.
It was fucking awesome.
Yeah. That mask was not anything like that, and even just using that mask once, I was like, that was kind of cool. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
That's intense.
It's like that's anxiety fucking driven right there.
Damn. Okay. So basically any drug that you can inhale goes well with this. It seems like.
It depends. Yeah. Like you have to, you want to stay away from something that causes rapid deoxygenization. So, or any drug that causes rapid changes in heartbeat. Because poppers are a very fun thing to use during this too. But naturally, you don't want to use poppers if you're using something else.
We're not
like
huffing
a
paint, are
prescription
we?
medication.
Are we huffing paint?
No, not paint.
No.
Poppers
No
are different
duster?
from paint.
Pop-
Like amyl nitrate.
Yeah.
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 So
I'm just
poppers is a bad idea during this, or just
only if it's
overdo it?
mixed with other
no,
stuff.
Poppers
Like,
can be very, very fun.
but you
It
shouldn't
has to
mix
be
it
done
with
in
like
moderation, but yeah, they
amphetamine
can
or
be
something
very,
like
very
that.
fun.
What are some other drugs that are like a bad idea? You said like ones that cause rapid.
I would assume like any sort of
deoxygenation.
opioid that lowers your breathing.
Or
So-
stimulant.
Things like that, and things that would affect your judgment. Like for instance, you definitely would want to avoid doing breath play scenes on something like acid or mushrooms. Granted, those two are very fun on their own, but not with breath play.
Yeah,
like
that'd
you
be
want to avoid
terrifying.
things that are going to change that might affect your ability to communicate or might affect your ability to be safe.
Okay.
So I'm very, very big on that.
Okay.
Okay.
So no ketamine involved.
No.
I actually have yet to experience ketamine, so I couldn't tell you.
I would tell you that
Oh
pretty
my
much
God,
fits the bill.
You bring up ketamine every fucking time.
It's a good drug. My favorite. One
You're
of my
like a
favorite.
fucking those like people that knock door to door to preach. You're doing that with ketamine. Every
a
guest
great
we have
drug.
on, hey, have you done ketamine?
I don't think I asked the last guest if
I
he did
think you might
ketamine.
have.
I don't think so. I
There's
think
always a drug side quest.
yes, it's drug side quest. We talked about DMT,
I do
ayahuasca.
like the idea of taking this hazmat suit
But-
that's like a safety fucking thing and being like, how can I misuse this for
yeah.
my own pleasure?
An OSHA violation. So we were discussing rebreathing. What was the other one you said? The
Vacuum bondage, right?
well, there's rebreathing and like breathlessness or something.
Yeah,
Suffocation.
you're gonna get onto breathlessness stuff. Like
Yeah.
hyperventilating
So,
and all that.
and this is also, this is why I had mentioned vacuum bondage as well, because these things definitely have some intersections.
Mhm.
And one of those is like one of my favorite things to do, just to kind of wrap up the rebreathing thing. One of the things I like to do is when I have somebody in my vac bed, because I love being in a vac bed. That's one of my favorite pieces of gear. One of the things that I'll do with somebody, and this is the majority of my content on Twitter, is if they'll explore my vac bed, and then some people get curious about breath play, and I'm like, well, so here's how we explore that. And I'll usually use a rubber rebreather bag. And when I have somebody get my vac bed, they use an anesthesia mask with an inflatable skirt, because I find it tends to be more comfortable for them, because it's just a breathing hole cut out in the rubber, and for some people the pressure on the nose is too much, so they use that mask. And that mask, having them use that mask, gives me the ability to attach things to it, such as a rebreather bag. And so I'll be in their vac bed, and then I'll have them hooked up to the rebreather bag. And that's actually how I've introduced several people to breath play. And it's a pretty exhilarating way to do it, because in a vac bed, you can squirm, but you don't move, if that makes sense. You
that
can
makes sense.
move around a little bit, but none of your body actually changes location within the vac bed. So it's very fun. You're completely powerless. There's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. And that's where that huge element of trust comes in.
Yeah. I just looked up a vac bed, and that's there's no getting out of that. There's just
No.
You just gotta let it happen, I guess.
You can't just Hulk out of that.
Maybe if you're real strong.
You can't Hulk out of mine. It's thicker than usual.
my
Oh,
God.
interesting.
Thicker than
You got a
usual.
special made one. You're like, nobody's getting out of this shit.
Yeah, is that
I invited the Hulk over one time, broke my fucking bed.
do people DIY this, or is it
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
something that's bought
Professionally.
almost all the time?
So what was the first part of that again? I'm sorry.
Is it a DIY thing to make the vac bed?
It depends. So, for instance, mine, we bought the actual latex sack itself, and then I made my own PVC frame, and I made a one-way valve with it, so that when I turn on the vacuum and suck somebody down, it stays down nice and tight, and I don't have to run the vacuum the whole time. That way I can record content without a vacuum screaming in the background.
Sweet. Suck somebody down. I love the fucking lingo. It's
Suck
so
somebody
cool.
down.
It's so cool.
I've even gotten claustrophobic people in it, and they ended up really enjoying it.
Oh,
Really?
wow,
God, 'cause
interesting.
I'm not claustrophobic, but I get a little claustrophobic looking at this
Yeah.
vac bed.
Yeah.
But
Most do.
so you said you you would introduce rebreathing to people. Is there a big crossover with people who are into this and then rebreathing? Do you find out or?
Oh, very, very big.
Okay.
Very, very big. So that's where that actually gives me a segue into mattress bags. So like the big clear poly bags that you can store a mattress in and then you suck it down with a vacuum. That's a really, really, really big thing, especially with furries. So like there's a lot of content out there of fursuiters being put in mattress bags and then sucked down all the way and then being made to struggle until they give the signal to be opened up. And in that, there's no breathing hole in those things. So once the air is sucked out, you're left with whatever was left in your lungs that you held on to, unless you're under a sadist like me. And I may leave that vacuum on until you don't have any air at all, depending on your experience.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Do I
so,
get an emergency knife?
yeah. Is there like
I'm assuming you got to have a safe word, but if
yeah,
you're
some way to
suffocating, you can't
communicate,
talk.
like this
Is it
isn't
sign
fun
language?
anymore.
Yeah.
Forest.
Yeah.
Forest. That's the only one I know.
So I'm actually really glad that you guys approached that too, because yes, as part of safety, signals are everything. And I never ever use anything verbal when it comes to breath play because, one of the things that I do is I do a lot of local events, and at some of these events, like I'll do one of the things I'll do is demos with my vac bed, and there might be a lot of noise or people milling around or whatever, and I can't trust that I'll be able to hear somebody off the bat, but I always use hand signals for that reason. So like when somebody's in my vac, or before somebody gets in my vac bed, I'll describe my hand signal system. It's very simple, and that is you give 3 taps, 3 big rhythmic taps with your hand, and then that tells me, okay, I'm going to stop, check in on you, make sure you're good. If you continue tapping beyond that, like it's over, I'm letting you out right away. And then when we're doing breath play, same thing, like 3 taps is all right, I need air. Or if you keep tapping, all right, we're done, scene's over.
It's a good system, nice and simple.
Taps.
So you said you can't really move around the vac bed. Is it hard to tap in the vac bed?
Oh yeah.
Actually, it's not. You can't move around
You can
you can
wriggle.
wiggle and you can squirm, but you just can't change location.
Okay.
So you're stuck in place. But yeah, you can still wiggle.
Okay.
You said something I was what was a vocal event? What was that?
Local.
Oh, local.
Local.
Oh, so you go like perform a show for people or?
In a manner of speaking, yeah. I'm part of a group here in Colorado called the Syndicate, and they're a non-furry rubberist organization, but they're furry adjacent, and that's in addition to my own thing that I do. I'm planning a big gear party for upcoming convention here, and all that kind of stuff. And so, and then I of course host local gear parties at my place or at friends' houses right now, because I'm in transition, but. Yeah, and at these parties, that's where a lot of this kind of started. I'd do those vac bed demos, and yeah, I'd have people literally lining up waiting to get in and to see what it's like.
Interesting. Is this like, is there money involved, or just anybody comes and just offers to be a tribute, basically?
So it depends. So like gear parties, for instance, are based off of attendees that are in the local gear chat. And we, myself, I'm one of the admins, and others, we carefully moderate these chats, and our vetting process is very simple and very effective, and it works. And that's keeping in, we invite people in and we check them out, make sure that they're good people. And, in the 4 years I've been hosting gear events, we've never had an issue, knock on wood, because everybody in this community has been pretty amazing. We haven't really had to worry about any issues, which means that we also get to play really hard when it comes to these gear parties. So yeah, people will when they know I'm coming, I got my vac bed, people will hang out and wait to be put in.
And this might be a silly question. Do you like create a Facebook event for like when you're coming to town or doing one of these parties? Is it kind of like that?
Post up flyers.
Like it's very casual. Like, hey, yeah, you're invited to suffocate a little bit with me tonight.
So actually, I definitely wouldn't be Facebook, especially for myself. My Facebook's pretty clean, but
smart.
Yeah, my primary means of conveyance is through Telegram. Then I've also got my Twitter and whatnot. I've got a FetLife too, which is where like FetLife is on Instagram, and the syndicate is primarily on FetLife and Instagram. But yeah, with them, they'll create flyers for a month. With the syndicate, yeah, we create flyers for monthly events. And then we'll post those throughout those media channels or whatever, so that the local rubber community can get in on that too. And as far as syndicate goes, like those are dress code parties, and you show up, you're showing up in rubber. And then one of the things that people get to try out is my vac bed. Like I arrive beforehand, I get set up. I do get paid a little bit of money to volunteer my time and equipment for it. And that's often when people also try breath play.
All
Nice.
right.
So you're benefiting even besides the money. You enjoy getting to introduce people to this. That's a big motivating factor. It sounds like.
It is absolutely. It is literally one of
Okay.
my biggest kinks. Like to be able to give somebody that first time experience, especially in a piece of
Okay.
equipment that intense. Yes, it's a
Very
huge
cool.
kink of mine.
Shares the love.
I guess when you
Spread the
said that,
love.
like people show up to these events in rubber,
Oh,
I had not even really thought about.
are they in rubber in the vac bed?
in rubber in the vac.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
whew.
I personally like raw dogging it, as it were. But yeah,
Okay.
That's what I
People-
assumed at first. Is
Yeah.
you just get it naked, but then when you said that, I'm like, well, maybe not.
yeah, yeah. And it can be done either way. It can be done with rubber or without. I find the experiences to be slightly different from each other, but just as fun in either case. When you're in a vac bed in a cat suit, after a while you stop noticing that you're in a cat suit. It all feels the same because it's all the same material anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
The only difference is that you have to use quite a bit more lube if you're getting in a cat suit. But the really hot part about that is if you use enough lube, when the vac bed is sucked all the way down, you can still slide around inside.
Okay.
I didn't think about that. So you have to lube up no matter what if you're going in the vac bed?
So the vac bed naturally is part of just your general basic latex care. The vac bed's going to have some amount of lube on it. And if you're
Okay.
raw dogging it, generally you don't really need to lube up. But
Okay.
if you're wearing latex, then yeah, it's a good idea because that latex will stick to the latex of the vac bed.
I see.
Latex on latex.
And
Yeah.
I guess how much is a vac bed? Is this an expensive thing?
It very much is. It depends on who you go through as well. I got mine through King Projects, but that was right before they had their wait times became absolutely enormous. Like you're looking at like 9 months to a year now for something from them. But it wasn't that way back then. I think because mine was 0.6. Most vac beds are 0.4, 0.5. Mine was 0.6 millimeter latex, and it's a little bit larger than normal on purpose. Because one of the other members of our gear community is like 6'10", so I want to
Dang.
make sure I could put him in.
That's awesome. That's cool that you thought about this person. That's really sweet for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's the owner of the chat, and you know
Okay.
he promoted me to admin, and that's what kind of started all this. So
You scratch my back, I scratch yours. You get a big ass
that's
back.
right. Yes, indeed. And so yeah, I would say with mine because of those things, it was around I want to say about $600, and that
Okay.
didn't include the frame. But there are companies like, you know, King Projects is considered like a good starter company because their budget and this and that. You do have to wait a very long time now, but you know, if you know what you want and you're wanting to invest some big money into some nice latex, there's also makers like Black Style and Kink Engineering, but or Euro cat suits too. But especially Kink Engineering, they're running the upper end. You're looking at like $1,200 for a really nice vac bed.
Damn. But if you take care of it, it should last you potentially forever, or is there like a shelf life on these with heavy use?
So it all really depends. So I'm in Colorado and it's extremely dry here, which is a good and a bad thing because between that and the altitude and UV, as long as the rubber is not, you know, made to sit in a hot car, and especially not left out in the sun, and it's cleaned and lubed and stored lube. That's the most important part is you clean it and then you lube it up and you store it lubed up. As long as you do that, yeah, you can make latex last for a good long while.
Okay.
It's very similar to a cast iron pan where you have to add oil to it every time after you clean it and use it. I don't know. It's a weird.
Yep.
Yeah. After you use the bed, just the latex, does that like go on and off, or is it just built in solid? You know what I mean?
Like onto the
You
frame?
take the frame out.
Oh yeah, the frame. So yeah, what I use is 1.5-inch PVC pipe, Schedule 40 specifically. If I could get my hands on Schedule 80, I would, because the less flex you have, the less somebody can move.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I use 1.5-inch PVC, and I drill the holes myself. And like when you make a vac bed frame, the ideal way to do it is to drill holes every 6 inches. 1/4-inch holes usually are 3/16. You know, go through one side of the pipe and then out the other side. You do that every 6 inches, and then your PVC elbows. I use PVC instead of ABS elbows because there's less texture on PVC,
Okay.
so you don't have to worry about tearing your vac bed. But yeah, everything just slips together. You don't want to glue unless your frame is never going to leave your house, you don't ever want to glue your frame together. You want to be able to have all the pieces pop off and this and that so that you can travel with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just got a big carrying case.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm
Strap
actually
it to
going to
your
use
roof.
probably, because I have a 37-acre ranch and I got a bunch of stuff laying around
Wow.
out there. I might use a big piece of 6-inch PVC pipe just to store all of my vac bed stuff in.
Okay. So it sounds like, okay, so like a big thing is obviously the vac bed, the suits. Are there any other things that are like vital to your experience with this? Like other things you wear or use typically?
As far as experience with breath play or broader experience?
I guess just in general,
Yeah.
like what's your arsenal kind of look like? Vac bed and suits and...
Oh yeah. I got my vac bed. I have a couple of different hazmat suits. One of them is a denuclearization protective ensemble. Is this called DPE? It's a wonderful suit, especially if you're very big into heavy plastic and PVC and vinyl. It's white inside and out. It's very thick. It's very supple, and it's very smooth inside and out. It's a wonderful suit to wear. I call it the marshmallow suit. I've got that one, and then I've got a staple for any hazmat collector, which is the German rubber Zodiac suit. It's a two-piece. So there's the coverall bibs and the boots. All of it is rubber unlined, and then the upper half of the suit has an integrated gas mask, and then sleeves and cuffs for gloves. That's also all unlined rubber. So it's a very fun experience. I'll sleep in that suit every now and then. I also have, those walk-on water balls about 6 feet in diameter.
Yeah, the
Just
Zorb
regular
balls.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
sick.
They're Zorb, right?
Those are incredibly fun to use for vacuum bondage, and they
Okay.
feel really good.
Wow.
That's what I use
Getting
mine
creative
for.
with this, because I'm sure there's lots of stuff like that. Because I was looking at this, the DPE. That's like for cleaning up like chemical spills, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm a massive hazmat fetishist, and yeah, that suit, as far as plastic suits go, is that's apex. That's one of the best suits you can get.
Can you just casually buy that, or is it like, how do you get one of those? Procure that thing.
You have to have a
So-
nuclear meltdown first.
Yeah.
Right. So that particular suit is actually really specialized. It's only used in a handful of places around the country, and it's used for a very specific purpose. So there's, for instance, here in Pueblo, or not here in, but 140 miles south of me in Pueblo, there's the bluegrass facility out there, and they're wrapping up on that project, but they're doing denuclearization and they're dismantling chemical weapons in that facility, and those suits are in direct use for that task, and that's what they're used for in a couple of spots around the country. So that being said, that particular suit is extremely difficult to get a hold of. I was very, very lucky in that I came across one on eBay. And then interestingly enough, 2 years ago, an ad on Craigslist for a guy that was selling 5 of them.
Fucking
wow.
love Craigslist, bro. That's so
Wow.
sick.
I would not have ever imagined. And one day I was like, I'm just going to type hazmat in and see what pops up. And sure enough, he had a bunch of those suits for sale. So I drove all the way to Los Animas, 5 hours from Wiggins to go pick them up.
Wow.
God damn. And you
Damn
bought all
right.
5?
Yep. And then I
Damn.
sent a couple of them out.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah.
Check them with a Geiger. Make sure they're
Yep.
cleaned up.
That is, yeah, these are
So
pretty hefty
yeah,
suits.
Yeah. Does the radiation detection equipment run into that fetish or not?
I mean, it could definitely be used as part of a scene. Absolutely. I have an incredibly vivid imagination, and one of my things I enjoy doing is wordsmithing with somebody, and wordsmithing their brain away until they're drooling and ready. So yeah, like anything, stuff like that could absolutely be fun as a prop. Just to also come around to finish the rest part of that question about where you can get something like that. That's on the far end of the spectrum.
Mhm.
Suits like the Zodiac suit, or a very popular hazmat suit, is made by a company called Chelchem, and that's a you guys may have seen it in hazmat fetish photos, like the yellow Chelchem supers, and either they're level A or level B, or somebody's wearing a gas mask over them, but they're otherwise fully covered. Those suits are a lot easier to get a hold of, and like you can get them on eBay. Like right now, there's probably 10 listings for Chelchem supers, for Draeger full rubber suits, for MSA suits, whatever. So it just depends on what you're wanting. But those tend to be a lot easier to get a hold of. So
All right.
I also, because you mentioned what else was in my arsenal, I do also have a pool toy suit.
Nice.
Oh yeah, you showed me a picture of that. The dragon,
cool.
white
Yes.
dragon, right?
I love that suit.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, I'm looking up this that Zodiac suit too. So it's safe to say that this is kind of an expensive fetish. Like as you collect gear over time, do you got like a figure of what you've spent? You think so far?
Oh dear God. So if I were to, I've been pretty lucky. I haven't ever spent more than, I want to say, I think one time I spent $320 on a hazmat suit. But beyond that, the most I've ever spent on any one hazmat suit was usually not more than about 200. And I've gained a couple of suits, the Zodiac being one of those, by trade, from trading other gear. But generally speaking, especially if you're in the upper end, if you're in the upper end of gear, like you want the best of the best, I mean, with the kind of stuff I have, you could be looking at easily $5,000-$10,000.
God damn.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I haven't spent that much. I can't afford that much, but
Yeah.
it's not hard to pass that mark.
but clearly you get a lot of mileage out of what you have. Like this sounds like I mean, realistically you could probably just use the same stuff for the rest of your life. What like for you, what's I guess like what's a typical night? Let's say you're getting down and freaky. Do you just kind of do a little bit of everything? Vac bed, do some rebreathing, a little bit of everything, or
Do you have like certain nights like, oh, I'm in the mood for this. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do hazmat tonight, then the next night it's something else?
It absolutely definitely depends. So like in the context of me being by myself, it honestly depends what the mood is. One night I might hump a pool toy suit with a beach ball over my head, or I might hump a pool toy with a beach ball over my head. And then the next night I might lock myself up in that PVC water walking ball I was telling you about and
hell yeah.
vacuum pack myself down in there. And then I spend the night asleep and vacuum packed.
Okay. So when you're doing solo, because obviously there is that concern, something could turn deadly. I mean, what's like the furthest you're comfortable doing solo? Do you, because obviously like the autoerotic asphyxiation is definitely a potential concern, I assume, like dying.
Yes, yeah, it absolutely is. It's like I was saying earlier. I highly advise against doing it if you're not very familiar with ways to do it safely. I discourage people doing it solo to begin with, but I know that people do it anyway.
And you said you're a sadist, so I assume you like to kind of push it solo too.
It really depends. So, like, if I'm doing it, it's in a way that's completely reversible. So, for instance, when I'm in my ball, I've got two valves on there, and one is hooked up to the gas mask. So I'm always, when I'm vacuum packed in there, I always have free flowing air coming in and out through the tube, going through the ball. And then there's a second valve on the ball that's closed, but there's look at that in a second. But there's a second valve in the ball that's closed. But anyway, so while I'm in there, I'm always breathing freely. And the way that I vacuum pack myself down is like I'll have one of my hands up by my face, I'll squeeze the hose shut, and I'll pull the mask away from my face just enough to pull air out. And then I'll let the mask back onto my face and exhale through the mask. And that's how I vacuum pack myself down. And in that same way, I can rebreathe, because if I start to get faint or whatever, then I'll let go of the gas mask hose and I'm breathing again. All it took was for me just letting go of it. But even that being said, I still don't push myself like at all solo.
Okay.
Breath play is something that I generally reserve for when I'm with other people, just to be safe about it.
Oh no, that sounds smart. Has there been any like close calls with you? Is this kind of trial and error how you found like the best way to do this?
Yeah, I've absolutely had some close calls.
It's got to be pretty harrowing.
Yeah, I'm really glad to still be here describing how not to do things so that you don't get close calls.
You're a valuable source of information.
Well, thank you very much. There've been a few times. So, for instance, I had this hazmat suit that had it was a back zip, and it was a double zipper. So the first zipper actually closed the suit up. The second zipper made it airtight. It was like a little Ziploc zipper. Both of those zippers were very small and hard to get a hold of, especially through the gloves in the suit. And it had one air intake that was very small. Well, I was messing around with poppers, and I accidentally spilled poppers in the intake. Poppers in the bottle. It's a very highly concentrated
oh my gosh.
formula. So it's very low vapor pressure, so it evaporates very quickly. Which also means if you spill any of it, like you're gonna know right away. It's intense. And so I spilled some in my only air supply, and I couldn't get myself out of the suit. I couldn't reach. I tried getting the zipper, and I just could not get a hold of the zipper to pull it out. This is a single-use suit, so it had a rip tab across the chest. And I started to get faint, and I realized I have to get the fuck out of this suit right now. And the decision was immediate. And I grabbed a hold of the rip tab and ripped the suit wide open and got myself out of there. It's one thing I always tell people is your life is always worth more than whatever piece of gear you're in. It doesn't matter if it's the only piece of gear in existence. If you have to cut or tear yourself out, save your own life, that will always matter more.
Yeah. Wow, that's fucking wild.
I said it somewhat jokingly earlier, but like, safety switchblade.
Yeah, no, it's a thing. Out. Yeah,
for real.
Yeah, I have a friend who gave me a set of medical shears, and I always keep those around just in case.
Nice. But yeah, you described it as a single-use suit. What does that mean? That you're literally only use it once and it's done, or?
So it means if a suit was designed only to be used once, which technically the DPE suit is as well, if it's zipperless. And what happens is once they're done using the suit for that particular entry, then they're cut out of it. And that was the same.
It can
with
only
this.
handle like one nuclear endeavor.
Well, I assume when you use it, if in its actual context, it would be radioactive or have something bad on it that they couldn't keep it, right?
Yeah, and it comes. There's a lot of factors that come into play for that. Like
you don't plan for more than once.
It might be cheaper. One of the factors is it might be cheaper to do that. Also, it might cost a lot more time, money, and it costs a lot more time and money and equipment to decontaminate somebody. You got to pull out the little kitty chemical pool and spray them down, and somebody else has to suit up to do that and go through the entire decon process. When it's easier to just take the suit off and dispose of it when you're done with it.
Okay.
Now, naturally, I will use a quote-unquote single-use suit far more than once. But, yeah, that's generally why some are single-use.
Damn, yeah. That fucking popper situation sounds terrifying. But, like, so that was... I guess I want to ask, was it, like, super hot, though, when you survived? Were you, like... Was it, like, the hottest experience ever? Kind of,
Well, there have been a few times I've been trapped in a suit, and I wasn't fearing for my life, and it was super hot. But actually what was going through my head immediately after that happened was, holy shit, that was fucking stupid. I'm glad I'm alive, and I have absolutely learned a lesson from that.
Okay, good. You took away the proper thing rather than saying, I wonder if I can do that again. Maybe, I don't know. I could see some people maybe reacting like that.
Oh yeah. I know people that have before, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna die if you keep up with that shit.
Yeah, dude. That's fucking wild. Do you know anybody who's like died from?
Yeah, do you have to like
this?
babysit people?
I do know of people, yes. I'm trying to recall here. I've had more than one acquaintance pass away from that. Definitely not under, my supervision or anything, but I've heard of a number of people passing away from getting stupid.
Okay.
So it absolutely does happen. There are videos out there on the internet even of people who tried to make videos of hanging videos when they're hanging themselves off the door frame.
Yeah.
And then they lose their footing or they slip, and then the noose goes tight and they can't reach back up to get the noose out before they pass out. And then you basically, to get dark, you've basically just watched them kill themselves on video.
Yeah. I think I've literally seen something like that. I was a big lively guy.
Of course
Best
you
gore
are.
or whatever. But okay. Damn, that's fucked. Because I know obviously there's like a couple famous cases, like who's that one guy from Kill Bill? David Carradine or whatever? And the dude from NXS, they died.
The type of thing, I do seem to remember hearing a lot more about it than I have recently. Like famous people auto asphyxiating themselves.
Because
and
they
stuff
got all
like
this
that.
like way cooler ways to do it now.
Oh, I don't know. Is that a case of people learning more, maybe?
Yeah, and that's like one of my big things with people is one of the other reasons that I put on events is it gives me an opportunity to educate people because, knowledge is power. As corny as it is fucking true. Knowledge absolutely is power.
Yep.
And knowledge will save your life, especially when it comes to doing extremely risky kinks like breath play.
Yeah. Well, you sound like very responsible and like everything's like it feels very structured, like how you guys handle everything. It feels like almost professional. So like that's obviously good, but there's obviously the people, the lone wolves who are just doing this shit on their own. And that's, that's clearly, I guess, the people that are potentially dying or I don't know.
It's something to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So I love the way you approach it and the way you look at it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
I think sometimes with sexual things, it's easy to forget that you have to respect it. You know what I mean? Especially with something like this, where your life could potentially be on the line.
It feels so good to come. No, but so I kind of want to get into the nitty gritty. Like, while you're doing this, are you like jerking off or something? Or
Yeah, so it all depends on what kind of equipment I'm using on myself or I'm using on other people. So, for instance, if I've got somebody in my back bed and they have a rebreather bag on, while that rebreather bag's on, of course, like I said, rule of thumb, never take my eyes off of them. I'm never going to walk away from them. I'm going to be right there staring at their hands, and I'm at a point now with people where I can actually see, I'll pay attention to their breathing rate. I can even see their heart beating through the latex in the back bed.
Damn, nice.
I watch for patterns in their movement, all that kind of stuff. Which also helps for when it comes to how does somebody come during this?
Yeah.
Wanding is a very common one.
Oh, okay.
That's usually a fun way to go with a back bed, is a wand. I'm a big personal fan of lay wand. Those seem to be pretty nice, but I've broken a couple of wands.
Mesky's husband, he broke a wand. He just went so hard on that thing. You said lay wand? Is that a brand? Lay wand?
Yeah, LE, like French.
Okay.
Le wand.
Okay. So when somebody's in the vac bed, you have to do it for them. You put the wand on them. Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they can't touch themselves.
Yeah.
Which just makes it all that much more fun, because then you can spend a bunch of time, especially if you're huge into breath play, teasing them and edging them until they're begging you for it.
Yeah, see, that sounds like a blast. Now you're saying like you keep an eye on them. Do people straight up like put somebody in a vac bed and just walk away? Like, don't you want to see it? Isn't that part of the that's hot?
I think that happens with rope play.
Okay.
So it depends. Like
somewhere your life's not necessarily on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it depends on the person in the vac bed, and it depends on the design of the vac bed too. So, for instance, there was a story some years ago, I want to say 2012, Kink Engineering. There's somebody from Kink Engineering who had tried one of their vac beds. He was actually one of their, I can't remember his exact title, so I don't want to cause disrespect, but he worked with the company and he got in one of their vac beds, but it was designed for a friend, and it was a head out vac bed. And he got in this thing by himself, got himself sucked down, and he ended up passing away because the neck opening of that vac bed was a little bit too small, and it started to restrict his blood flow just enough that his body began to shut down from it. He went unconscious and then passed away from there.
Holy shit. So his head was out. So you would assume that would be safer, but clearly in this case, since it wasn't fitted to him, it just fucking killed him.
That's exactly why I brought that up. Yeah, so that people can understand that a head-out vac bed can actually be more dangerous, and that's why, you don't leave somebody unattended to head out vac bed.
Yeah, and it was just because it was a little too small. It wasn't even like a deformed piece of equipment or anything. It was just not the right piece of equipment. That's terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. It's scary how dangerous this stuff is. As far as my own vac bed's your typical head in with the small breathing hole. If it's somebody who's comfortable in my vac bed, they've been in it before, they enjoy being in it, like we've known each other, we have that trust. Like, yeah, I could absolutely, if they're only without breath play, they're full open breathing, I can absolutely leave them in my vac bed and go upstairs and get something to drink or whatever and just leave them down there to chill. But I'm not going to walk away for more than a few minutes at a time. And just like with me, I don't mind being left unattended when I'm in my vac bed because, another thing that somebody can do is if it absolutely comes to it, all they have to do is tilt their head to one side or the other, just cause just enough of a gap in the mask that it lets air back in, and then they can move if they need to. But that's the only way I would ever leave somebody unattended, and even then, like I said, not for very long. It's best to just always be watching over somebody in that fragile of a position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, their life is literally in your hands. So with the vac bed, you said there's a small breathing hole. Are there ones without any breathing holes? Like just
Yes.
Okay, and that I'm sure they can't stand there for super long.
Yes, absolutely. There's actually a guy on Twitter. I think it goes by, I want to say Encased. And yeah, it's the vast majority of his content is him being in vac beds that have no air holes. And it's very, very hot stuff. The videos are very short, naturally, but
Sure.
it's incredibly hot stuff.
Damn. Okay. Is that you ever fuck around with that? Like, is that something?
And my ball, definitely.
Okay.
I haven't been able to do that in my vac bed per se. Just I haven't had the chance yet to try it away from the breathing hole, because once the latex is sucked down, the breathing hole contacts the other side of the latex. Then it will stay sucked down. Generally speaking, as long as there's enough pressure. I haven't tried it that way. I have definitely done it in my ball, and I've definitely gone airless in my ball and my hazmat suit, and most of my hazmat suits, and it's a lot of fun. But it is a very big rush, and it's one of those things. Like, breath play is something that people usually are either all in or all out. They're either, no, I like my breathing, or let's give this a shot. Oh, holy shit, I love this. This is amazing. Let's do more of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There isn't an in between.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. Now, do you like does this cause issues when you're like dating or anything? Like, have you had partners that kind of like reject this or like don't want to indulge?
So I never did a whole lot of dating,
Okay.
which, much to my mistake, in my personal opinion. But I've had 2 relationships. I'm now into my 3rd. My last one ended in divorce. But yeah, at first, it seemed like he kind of knew what he was in for with me, because I'm incredibly kinky and I'm proud of it, and I'm not gonna hide who I am, in my relationship with somebody. And at first he was down, but the scenes I was requesting from a dude were pretty hardcore, and sometimes he'd carry it out and sometimes he couldn't do it. But anyway, that ended. Now I'm with my current partner, who is inexperienced but far kinkier and absolutely wants to learn more, and wants to try out more of this stuff. We've already done a little bit of exploring, and he's enjoyed all of it. So it's definitely a piece of advice I have for people. Everybody's journey in kink is different. Everybody's place in life is different. Place in life with kink is different. How they view it through their lives, as part of their sexual identity. For some people, it's a very personal, private thing. For others, they're out loud and proud about it. So it really just depends on the person. But one thing that I always tell people is, especially if it's a large part of you and your sexuality, you should not give that up to be with somebody. If your partner can't handle that, then look at dating other people who can, because you will regret it if it's a huge part of your life. You have pool toys filling your living room, and you have your vac bed standing up on its edge all the time because you have people over, and you're messing around all the time doing this. You need to find somebody who's into that too, because somebody who's not it's in my experience, it's not worked out well.
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree.
It caused a lot of friction.
We've had a couple of guests on here that have dealt with that. They tried to, I guess, be in a normal relationship when they weren't. That wasn't them,
Yeah, definitely. Don't give up that part of yourself to be with somebody, because you won't be happy.
Yeah. Oh, I determined that very early on when I started first exploring myself and all that sort of stuff. I realized that I just couldn't be with somebody that wouldn't accept it to some degree, because I just couldn't be without it.
Yep. I mean, yeah, literally, you have inflatables all over your house and stuff.
Yeah,
like
plush too.
You can't avoid it. If you were not to like indulge in that your partner's kink, you're like kneecapping them basically.
Yeah.
Like,
throughout the people we've talked to, most of them met their partner through their kink.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was it like that for you?
Actually, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
By the way, inflatables all over your house, but your house smells amazing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's actually quite true. So I have a mistress, Mistress Amethyst, and I have 3 collared subs. One of them is my boyfriend. He asked for his collar shortly after getting with me, and I met him through my mistress, and they'd known each other from when they lived in Florida. And yeah, they've been good friends, and my boy's been has a couple of local friends here as well. And yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I'm capable of dating outside of furry but I don't want to.
Hell yeah, dude. There's so many nowadays. You got like the pools growing. It's
Oh yeah.
on a day, like how much during the day do you like indulge in this? Like, is this like every day you're doing some sort of breath play or like latex or hazmat suit?
So it all depends on what I've got to do during the day. Because like I said, currently that's about to change, but currently I live on a 37-acre ranch, middle of nowhere. So the great thing about that is privacy. And if I have a day where I'm home, then yeah, I can indulge. I usually don't do breath play stuff alone, but I'll indulge in hazmat. I'm also very big into rain gear too. So hazmat, inflatables, rain gear, any combination of that. Like I'll go and put on a couple layers. Or I'll put on a hazmat suit and I'll spend the day chilling in my hazmat suit, cleaning the house, whatever. Yeah, because I'm a very tactile person. That's how the majority of my fetishes, that's the basis of the majority of my fetishes, is how something feels. How it looks is great too. That's where skin tight latex comes into play. It does feel incredible as well, but also looks amazing. But yeah, how something feels, how something looks, how something smells. I do like to indulge it on a very regular basis whenever I'm able to. It's and it's something that it's not just because it's enjoyable, but and this is highly relatable for a lot of people, but it also provides a sense of comfort and security. Because my life is really crazy right now. I'm undergoing a lot of changes, and there are a lot of things that aren't in my control, but wearing gear is something that's in my control, and it gives me a sense of security through that.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. We had the one person who liked the sleeping bags or whatever. What was that?
Oh, puffy down.
Puffy down. Yeah, that sounded super like very comforting.
Yeah.
And on top of obviously being fucking turning them on, but you don't have to answer this, but do you have like a day job? Do you, like something not related to your kink that like you make money from?
I do actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a carpenter by trade, but I'm going to be looking to get out of that and running my own landscaping company so that I can do, so I can have more time for doing other events. And it's something that I'm pretty good at. I don't have a college degree or anything, not for lack of trying 4 times.
Damn.
But yeah, because you got to do what you got to do to make money and
yes, exactly.
and pay the bills. Believe me, if I could be a dom for hire, I've thought about it. I would be, but I just don't want to. I don't want to take on that risk and liability. Otherwise, I would absolutely do that.
Because you have a very level-headed approach to all this. Sounds very responsible. So like that's why I was curious, because it almost sounds like you did do this for a living, but no, it's just you have a normal fucking job and then you get to do all this wild shit in your off time.
Yeah, basically. You can say I practically do it for a living because I'm one of the primary kink event organizers here for the community, and I love doing these events for people. And it's like I said, my primary kink is introducing people to new things and new gear, and seeing them experience something for the first time. So yeah, I try and do that as much as I can. And so we have monthly play parties between like the syndicate, and then of course my own gear parties and con parties and this and that. And so in a way, it's almost a second job, but there's nothing about it that I dislike. I never hate having to load my vac bed up in my car or having to put it away or whatever. Like, it's never a chore for me. It's always something that has been a huge passion. As a result, I've introduced several dozen people to this and to various kinks. And I absolutely love doing it. Like getting somebody in my back bed for the first time, and at first like, oh, hold on, okay, maybe wait a minute. I'm just gonna lay here for a minute. I'm like, all right, no problem. Claustrophobic friend of mine, totally claustrophobic before. We took about half hour, got him used to it, got him in there, sucked it down about halfway. He's like, all right, give me a few minutes. I let him work through it. And then I sucked him down all the way. And one of the hottest, most satisfying parts about doing this for somebody for their first time is when that latex wraps around them fully and that vacuum turns off. And the first thing you hear is that sigh, that, oh, just where they're completely overwhelmed by what they're feeling. Because it's a very intense experience. They're completely overwhelmed by what they're feeling, and they're experiencing a lot of pleasure. That's hot as hell to watch.
So if you're a first timer, is it a good idea to go straight for the vac bed, or like how do you like dip your toes into the pool with this kind of kink?
So
either
it all
rebreathing
depends.
or the latex vacuum.
Yeah, so like when it comes to breath play, I do always recommend rebreathing, either through like a medical mask and a rubber rebreather bag. You could also use a gas mask, but even that, the whole idea of your entire face being covered plus rebreathing your own air. Like I like to start off light. One of my philosophies is I go at your pace. I'm not gonna force you to do something that's too intense, and I'm not. I work everybody up slowly and lightly, because I've worked with a lot of people who are traumatized because somebody threw them into something they weren't ready for, and they were forced to endure it, and came out of it traumatized because of it. And I never ever want to do that to somebody. So I always take my time with them, with introducing them. And so yeah, like bagging or rebreather mask and bag is an easy way to do it, because they can feel. It's a very gradual process, so they can feel when the air is starting to get thin. They can feel that they're starting to suffocate, and they're welcome to it anytime. Go, okay, yep, tap, tap, tap. That's it. That's good. That was fun. Give me a minute. See if I can go a little harder. That kind of thing. As far as vacuum bondage goes, and vac beds, it's pretty much you dive in. There are, let's see, yeah. I mean, really, that's about the best way to put it. If you want to try vacuum bondage, try a vac bed. So, um, and go for that experience if you have the opportunity to. It's the best way to do it. It is intense when you're in there, when you get locked in and that rubber sucks down all around you. It's a full body hug. Every millimeter of your skin is hugged super tight, and there's pressure all around you, and you can't see anything.
And that's what you're offering up to people at cons and stuff when you show up?
At the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are there lots of people doing that? Pretty much.
Lines out the door.
Lines out the door?
Maybe.
So it depends. Now that a lot of my local kinky friends have experienced my vac bed, it's not that way anymore. But yeah, it used to be like, especially like first, second year into gear parties, where I'd spend the entire gear party just putting people on my vac bed all night because everybody wanted to try it out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it is. I didn't mind it. It was fun. One thing that you learn as a kink event organizer is you rarely get to play at your own parties, but that's what private sessions are for. So.
Okay.
That's very cool. I mean, yeah, I guess if I was at a party like that, I might as well try it. Yeah, and it's super safe. There's so many people there. Like, it's very like comforting to know that if something goes wrong, there's like dozens of people potentially to make sure everything's okay. I mean, obviously you're trustworthy, but I think that would make it easier to approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's one thing that I touched on a little bit here that I didn't talk about that, again, ties in with vacuum bondage and breath play, and that is, so that psychological aspect of it is, it's like I was saying a little bit earlier, that form of control. And when you're doing breath play with somebody and you have them fully bound up or you have them in a vac bed, it's an enormous amount of control. And for somebody who wants to submit completely and totally, and they want every single part of their being to be controlled, there really isn't a stronger way to feel that. When you can't move, you can't see, you can barely hear anything, and now you're not even in control when you get fresh air. It's one of the most ultimate means of giving up control. And that in itself is a very deep experience, both for the person giving up control, and the person giving up control, allowing that control to be given up, and the person who is taking the responsibility of that control over them. And that's a very deep and special thing. And that's also where a lot of this appeal for this kind of thing comes from, is that kind of control.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you show anybody like a picture of somebody in a vac bed, I think it's hard to like come up with something more intense. And yeah, it's kind of wild. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess, do we have any other
I do have
questions
a question.
we want to ask?
You've given us a really good snapshot of what your scene is like and what you're doing in it, and I think it's awesome. But was it like that when you were coming into it? Did you?
Oh yeah, did you help develop the scene?
Are you helping out people like the way you were helped out when you came in, or is it different now than it was when you came in?
So I absolutely am. My means of coming into it was a little bit different and a lot more intense. But yeah, I like, that's why I do what I do, is I love helping people experience this. So the way I came into it was, I did breath play a little bit with people before my first really intense experience, but I hadn't done much. I have this thing called a bonsai water runner, and it's basically a Zorb, but it's a smaller version of a Zorb. And I got in there and I went in through the hole because it has one of those nice big Boston valves. And I went in through there with a pair of scissors and cut all the support strings. Because it's a double layered ball. So now the inside layer will squeeze in on you when you get inside of it and you're inflated. The inside layer squeezes in on you and it'll lift you even off the ground. And only your head and feet are sticking out and you can't move, you can't go anywhere. And so I had a friend do this to me. And then he put a bag over me, and for short periods of time, for just a few minutes. I want to say back in 2011. And so that was my first like touch of breath playing, but it wasn't much. Followed up about a year later, I met up with another guy who has a wet hot self-suction sleep sack, and it's basically a wet hot sleep sack, and it has an attached S10 gas mask. And the way it works is this gas mask has a hose coming off of it to a four-way valve, and off of that four-way valve another hose goes off of it and back into the sack, and then one other side is open. And so you get in the sack and the gas mask is strapped onto your face and it's glued in with the latex of the sack, so it's an airtight seal once you're sealed up. And when it's strapped on your face and the valve is set a certain way, just you breathing naturally is pulling air from inside the sack and exhaling it out by the way the gas mask functions. That's one of the ways that you can set that valve. And so that was also that was my second vacuum bondage experience. But that was so yeah, and so he would have me in there on the bed, and I would be forced to self-suction myself inside this rubber sleep sack. And he would allow me to do that until it got so tight that I completely ran out of air. And then he'd leave me like that, completely airless for a couple seconds, sucking rubber. And then he would open the air valve again, let air back in the sack, and we repeated this over and over. However, he also introduced poppers to me in this way, and I'd never experienced poppers before this experience. And it was, to this day, still, I think, one of my top 3 hottest kink things I've ever done. I've done a lot of crazy shit, but this was incredibly hot. And so yeah, I was force fed poppers and forced to continue to self vacuum pack until I suffocated. And that was my trial by fire into breath play, and that's when I got completely hooked on it.
God damn. Well, okay.
Jeez.
How was that arranged? Like, how did you meet this person? Was this so long ago, or you like, was it a Craigslist thing, or was it like? So
this was back in the days of Gear Fetish, gearfetish.com, rubberzone.com, sites like that. Back before things like Telegram existed, back when it was like IRC and Yahoo groups, and I'm 36, so I've been around this block a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so yeah, back then you would use something like Gear Fetish, which is like it's like what Recon is today. And it's a whole site where you have your profile and what you're into and your sexual position and this and that. You post your content. And you find people that are nearby that are in the same shit you are. Okay. And that's how I found him.
Okay. Interesting. Very cool. Damn, yeah. We cover a lot of ground.
Yeah,
I don't know what else.
Covered a ton.
Yeah, is there like I know Mesky always likes to ask, and I'm going to steal it. Like, I assume we know the answer, but has your kinks made your life better? Are you happy you have these kinks?
So, yeah, it took me a long time to finally say yes to that.
Okay.
It took a long time because I started very, very, very early. Like, I was tied to a light pole when I was 7 years old, and I asked my friends to leave me there because I enjoyed it so much.
God damn. That's wild.
I started very early. But because of that, I also grew up in a very conservative household.
Yeah.
very religious, very strict. And I'm also gay. In the kink world, I'm pansexual, but overall, minus kink, I'm gay. So it was difficult. It was very difficult for my parents to first discover my kinks and then discover that about me. And there was a good period of time there between that and my first two relationships where, I didn't really like it. I didn't like being kinky. I was like, why do I have to be this way? This is making my life so much more difficult. I'm having to wade through so much more shit because I'm into all this kind of stuff. But I ended up getting myself into a community where I belong. And my parents, after a couple of years, came around, and they're very supportive, and they know about this side too, although it's one of those, like, we don't really talk about it much. But it took me finding my community and finding a partner who really is open to exploration and encourages me to enjoy that part of myself, to finally be grateful for it. And now I could not be more grateful. Like, the kink community is my rock. I dealt with some serious depression last year, to the point of nearly committing suicide, and the kink community saved me. And for that, that's another driving force behind the service I try and provide to this community, is because they've helped me out. That's why I am still here. Kink for me is therapy. It's an escape, and it's therapy.
You're just like returning the favor. You feel some sense of like obligation to do that?
I wouldn't even call it obligation, because obligation in a way can
Could be negative.
imply that it's something that you don't always want to do.
Yeah.
This is something I love doing. I absolutely love doing it.
Off that heavy subject, your parents know about your kink? How did that happen? What was it, a weird experience, or?
It was the most awkward conversation I've ever had in my life.
I would imagine.
So yeah, I want to say 12 or 13.
Oh damn.
And I'm firstborn, so I'm the first of three kids, two younger brothers, and so I was the experiment. I'm the reason that my parents have all these books on how to raise a difficult child in their bookcase.
Hell yeah, that's right. Yeah, the first one's always just kind of let's see what sticks when we're raising them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no instruction manual, and so one day, my parents had allowed me to get a lock on my door, but then they decided that they didn't like me locking my door, because back then, masturbation is evil. And I had locked my door because I was in the middle of trying to make a suit out of, I believe it was an Orca ride-on toy, a pool toy. And I locked my door because I was trying to do that, and I was cutting a hole for my cock and putting tape around it, like doing, young kid shit for the kinky. And so my mom knocked on the door, and I immediately like scrambled, and I tried to hide it under my covers, and I go to open the door, and she was like, I know you were doing something in here. I heard you wrestling something around. And then she goes to lift up the bed sheets, and there it is. Like, and it's quite obvious that I was trying to make it something that I could wear. And then ensued the most awkward conversation I've ever had in my life with somebody.
I could only imagine.
It's like a literal sitcom.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
That's why we need more coming of age kinky people in sitcoms.
No, I feel that.
Agreed.
I had the same conversation with my mom. I watched her brain like literally short circuit.
It's hard to process. So
it was hard to process. I could tell she already had like the porn talk prepared, and then she had no fucking clue what to say. So she just like dropped one line that she had prepared and then walked out the
door. But you said it took your parents a long time to come around. Like, how long are we talking? Did they just like ignore it, or did they like actively dislike you for it or something? Or
did they ever try it out?
So as far as the kink thing goes, we kind of swept that under the rug and didn't talk about it. And then when I came out, my dad especially had a really hard time with it for a couple of years. But they started to come around and understand that this is something that can't be changed. It's part of who I am. And at first they were enamored with my ex. They thought he was a pretty cool guy, but things kind of went downhill after that. But one thing that happened throughout all that is they, saw me initially happy with somebody and wanted to support me. And they're at a point where, they still have some conservative beliefs, but they also are very open-minded when it comes to social things. Like they understand plurality, they understand and acknowledge and see people who are like the transgender community. They're very understanding of all that stuff now. But it took probably initially 2 years and then another 3 or 4 after that. Now we're all on the same page. Like my boyfriend and I can sit together with each other and lean on each other at the dinner table with them. I have worn my rubber in front of them when they came over once, but
nice. How did that feel? Was that like scary, or was it like super like empowering, or what was it?
It was all of that.
Okay.
Because I didn't wear a full cat suit.
Okay.
But I'm a big fan of surf suits because you don't get all of the sleeve, so it's a lot easier to put on and take off. And it's more versatile. It works with whatever clothing. And so I had on a surf suit, and I was wearing just regular jeans with it, and they didn't mind. There have been times when they come over and I was wearing rain gear and shit, and once in a while my dad would be like, "Oh, now why are you wearing this plastic right now?" I'm like, "Because I want to. It's my house."
Fucking right.
You didn't hear the weatherman, Dad?
There's gonna be rain in this house.
Right.
So when you say rain gear, is it like a parka, like those big yellow things, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like rain jackets, bib pants, stuff like that. Like, there are these days now a couple of brands where they specifically make rain gear that appeals to fetishes. And there are a couple of others that some of us believe make their gear the way they do just to appeal to rain gear fetishes, because
Interesting.
It's pretty damn nice.
It's a marketable demographic.
Yeah, they don't want to outright say that's what it's for, but it's obvious who has the kink knows what it's for, kind of thing.
At the end of the last episode, I was talking about the same thing, but with pool toys.
Yes.
These guys didn't believe
Imagine
me.
being really kinky just trying to keep dry on accident.
Exactly. And that's relatable with the whole pool toy thing. There's a certain way a toy can look at you and you're like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
These guys don't get it.
Mesky sent us a picture. One time he sent us a picture of a pool toy that had, quote, "fuck me eyes."
Yes.
Yes. These guys didn't get it.
Yeah.
I thought they were just normal eyes to me, bro.
It was the unicorn sprinkler, the big enough unicorn sprinkler.
They know what they're doing. They know
Yeah,
who they're
they know what
targeting.
It's
like a hidden world.
Why wouldn't you try to tap into this marketable demographic?
Yeah. Okay, let's just get to the bottom of it. What is the acceptable amount of kink at a con? What is it? Let's just hear the answer.
Oh, I know my answer.
Now, keep this in mind. This is one of the reasons I don't have a whole lot of dog in this particular fight.
Okay.
The only con I have gone to is Denver. I haven't been able to afford to go to any other cons, but I have plenty of friends who do, and I'll talk to them about each convention. It all depends on who's running the convention and the convention space. So, for instance, I hear that BLFC, because of where it is, tends to be a pretty kink appropriate con because it's in a more adult setting. Now, something like Denver, in my personal experience, and it might have kind of partially been a little bit my fault, but not just me, I promise. Denver on Friday this last year, they ended up sending out a message to all of us saying, "Hey, let's not wear any rubber in the main areas, even late at night."
Interesting. So they clearly got complaints or something. Did that bother you? Like,
and you were like one person who got CC'd in that email.
So now I'm very big on honoring. I'm very big on honoring the rules when it comes to convention. And last thing I want to do is get myself kicked out. And I'm especially big on honoring hotel room rules, which is also why my parties are conducted very carefully. Everything's above board. We check IDs, 21 plus only. Because we want to make sure, that's an awful embarrassing way to get kicked out of a con. So I never want that to happen. But yeah, the hotel had requested that we not wear rubber in any of the areas, where initially the con rules were after a certain period at night, that we'd be okay to walk around in latex. But then they were like, yeah, it's not. So
interesting.
Unfortunately. So what it ultimately, to take away from it, is the amount of kink that's appropriate at a convention is whatever is outlined by the rules of the hotel and the con space itself. And even though, whether we agree with it or not, and it kind of sucks, but ultimately, if you want to keep that convention going, you want to respect the space it's being held in so that they want you back next year.
Fair enough.
And That's kind of my view on it.
That feels like the right answer. I don't know. That's the most.
But I'll come to your aid and say that just because something's a fetish or a kink doesn't mean it's always sexual.
I am a terrible.
That's why I was laughing, because Marquise definitely feels the opposite.
Yep, I'm a terrible hotel guest.
What, you just say
I'm
fuck
an
it?
awful. I throw furniture out the window.
Yeah, that's.
But no, it's like
I remember that if you ever come to a gear party, we'll just put you in a straitjacket so you can't cause trouble.
Straight jacket, throw them in the back bed for a couple hours.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I'll just put you in a straitjacket.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's
exactly. It's like, especially if you're there for something like this, it's like you're not just yourself. You're like
you have to
representation
represent
of your community.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep,
exactly.
exactly.
Gotta make sure people
really
don't get the
on
wrong
that.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure we've all heard some of the horror stories from some of these.
Oh, rainforest, right?
Yes, that one in particular was a bit of a catastrophe, but
a bit.
Yeah,
just a bit.
Some might say it was just a fun party. Others call it a catastrophe. Perspective.
Yeah, exactly. But they had a good time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Well, I mean, and then we have our own people, of course, like John Wolf. He's actually a cool guy, but yeah.
So back to the question. You said that you just had one day at the con that you were being kinky, and then whatever, they sent an email or whatever. So maybe that's the answer. You extend the con one day and make that the kinky day.
Right?
Yeah.
I
actually,
think that's very placative.
Probably hotel guests that are bitching though.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That's why you got to just max out the hotel.
They're not
with
the only
all
ones there.
furries.
Oh, I guess if the entire
Like
hotel's
MFF,
booked by, yeah.
MFF, that hotel books out like that.
Yeah.
There is not a non-furry in that hotel at that time.
And talking about going to like a hotel where it's just full of swingers.
So the freaks show up early on like Thursday.
Oh, apparently
night.
pineapples is a swinger thing. My
Pineapple
shirt.
swinger thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently my pineapple shirt means I'm a swinger.
Oh yeah, it does. He's wearing a pineapple shirt.
I don't know. I'm pretty fucking monogamous. Like the more I have these.
You're a fucking constant monogamous. You're like you're the for how like weird your kink and stuff is. You are the most like bread and butter kind of relationship guy.
Exactly. And I don't mean any offense to anybody about this, but the more conversations I have with people, the more vanilla I realize that my sexuality is. Like it's very it's weird.
You need to have perspective. You have one of the oddest fetishes to most people.
Yeah, but everyone we talked to so far has the same fetish somehow.
Okay. We're doing a fetish podcast.
On top of that, they have more interesting ones that are fun to talk about.
But Mesky meets them because of probably through your kink and stuff. Like there's going to be overlap. That's how you get into contact.
I mean, not necessarily. Like obviously Satellite was latex, which there's some overlap there.
Yes.
And then we met Chronic through Satellite, so obviously more overlap over there. But I've even had people out of the blue randomly hit me up and be like, "Oh, can I do your pool toy episode?" I'm like, "Sorry, man, that's for me."
That's going to be an exclusive.
But I made a good friend out of that. Yeah.
Back of the line.
Yeah, I'd very much like to do like a single one on you, and then maybe eventually get like a group
thing. Yeah, it could be two-parter.
We're gonna like deep dive into it, find out that everybody has an inflatable fetish.
We're gonna
Just fucking lying to me.
Have you heard of these transvestigators that think everybody's trans?
Oh my god, I believe it.
They get so like obsessed with this shit. They start thinking their parents are trans and shit. They're fucking psychotic.
For a while, when I was a kid and I was discovering this fetish about myself and like my interests and stuff, I did think that for a while. I'm like, is everybody into this and just nobody's saying anything about it?
That's a natural thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was like 9 or 10 years old, but it was
dumbass, dumb 9.
That's definitely something that went through my head. No, and now I'm finding, and then I thought I was the only one for a while, and now
so
I'm finding
you're special.
Well, I didn't think I was special. It was pretty depressing.
It's lonely.
Felt very lonely, and then I found out I wasn't the only one. Now I'm finding out it's a lot more common than I thought.
Yeah.
Inflatables were actually my doorway into furry.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually, I think it was all at once because I like inflatables, plush, and furry. And I definitely really remember liking Star Fox when I was a kid.
Yes.
A whole hell of a lot. Really liking stuffed animals.
Dude,
so
gargoyles.
I think they all developed
the
at the same
animated
time.
TV show?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Oh.
That's what kind of like one of the first things that you remember that you were like, woo, I like this more than...
Are you kidding me?
Sexy gargoyles?
Goliath is so fucking hot. Like, seriously.
I don't get this reference.
Yeah, I'll have to.
PBS
You gotta
kid.
show me after you find it.
Oh yeah, you didn't have cable.
I don't recognize this.
That wasn't a cable show.
Yeah, this is something we always talk about in every episode.
TV shows.
Yeah, do you ever see little references to like breath play or stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Like when you're watching shows and stuff, and can you think of any?
So actually, there are some massive mareferences. I'm glad you asked me that question. So there's one. There's a particularly well-known clip from League of Gentlemen, and it's a scene called. If you just Google "Daddy Controls Your Breathing,"
I'm looking it up now.
It's a scene.
Gosh.
Yes, and it's a scene where this guy is in a room and he's got this old school ass respirator machine. And he's got like 8 or 9 people in inflatable latex ball suits with inflatable ball hoods on. And the hoses are running to each person. And he's going, "Daddy controls your breathing.
That's
You're going to experience sensations you've never felt before." And he goes in this whole thing and he switches the air off and on and they start suffocating. And it's very hot to watch. But yeah, so that's a particularly well-known scene. Another one would be, the girl in the spider's web, I want to say the girl in the spider's web. And there's a scene where her nemesis traps her in a latex vacuum sack, and then turns the vacuum on, and there's no breathing hole or anything like that. And so she's vacuum packed in that latex.
Like a Bond villain or something.
Yeah.
A Bondage villain. No.
Hey!
Okay.
Yeah.
That was great.
That's got to be it. There's got to be a porno spin-off series.
Oh, the best one.
Bondage.
The best one.
James Bondage.
Or Womb Raider. Laura Crotch and Womb Raider.
I gotta tell you though, the freaking best one though to use. Oh my god, the new Hawaii 5-0.
With Bobby Lee in it?
Yeah, the I believe
Lee's
it's the opening scene of the series, and it's about 3 minutes long. And in this 3 minutes, I counted at least 10 kinks, and it was literally the hottest softcore fetish porn I think I've ever seen, and it was on network fucking television.
God damn, that's so.
Fuck
So
yes.
I like when they're kind of like just.
It's like a dog whistle for kinky
Yes,
people.
but like sometimes it's like kind of like subtle or whatever. These are so on the nose. They're like, yeah, this is what I'm kind of into. So I really like that.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's things like kids TV shows we
Yes.
find will like jumpstart people's kinks and stuff
Oh, yeah.
like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I moderate the Fetish Fuel subreddit, and literally half of it is people talking about childhood TV shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep. Oh yeah. Like
I mean, I
animated
guess
spider-
like any underwater scene or anything like that, people running out of air and any
Yeah, that part of
fucking
Tomb Raider where you got to swim through the tunnel.
yeah.
Oh yeah. What do you think about like holding your breath underwater and stuff? Do you ever do that? Is that something you're into, or like without scuba
Yeah.
gear? Or...
Yeah, I have a huge interest in free diving and scuba diving as well.
Fuck yeah.
And I have a couple of friends that do free diving, and I have one friend that, you know, when she was at the height of her free diving, she could go for 3 or 4 minutes at a time underwater.
damn.
And I'm looking to train with her. She's actually the wife of one of my subs.
That's
we're very
awesome.
close friends, but yeah, I want to train with her because I very much want to be able to be underwater for a long period of time. So the average lung capacity of most people is between 4.5 and 5.5 liters. My
Holy
lung
shit.
capacity is 7.4.
Is that just a natural thing, or did you train to
It's
do
from
that?
all the weed
It was-
smoking.
It was from blowing up pool toys by mouth.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
That's what does it.
Okay. Oh, so
You
clearly...
said you live in Colorado. Did you grow up in Colorado?
Pretty much, yeah.
got the
I've been
mountain
here
lungs?
since 1990.
Yeah, you live at high altitude, so you're like everything's coming together. That's why you'll be able to hold your breath underwater for like 5 or 6 minutes. Or like realistically, what could you do, you think, with your large lung capacity?
Well, the thing is, I do smoke weed on a regular basis, and I do vape very regularly.
So that kind of fucks with it a little bit.
No,
Yep.
it's good for it.
I think in a proper headspace, I can hold my breath. I think the most I went was around 1:30.
Okay.
So not that long, but if I were to do more regular training, then
it's longer than I could do.
I could definitely go longer.
Yeah, that's the scariest thing. I was recently reading about like people dying from like a certain something happens when they're doing like a free dive where I forgot what it was called, but
Oh,
it was
they get the bends?
no,
The
no,
Bend.
no, no. That's a
Good
Radiohead album. it's like, oh, I wish I could remember it. It's really terrifying because you like the onset and the symptoms are super quick, and like it can just happen simply from like slightly hyperventilating while you're getting ready to dive. I don't know. Maybe you know more about it than me, but after reading about that, it was fucking terrifying. I'm never gonna hold my breath underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend was telling me about that, and it's basically, when you do your breathing exercises and then you go down, when you're on your way back up, you have to recognize when it's time to go back up, because you can just randomly pass out, and if you don't have a friend with you, well, you're dead.
I think it's called like shallow water or something. It's like, it's fucking scary. Like I saw a video of a guy doing it. It just happened. He was doing like something. He was a professional. He just fucking died.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Very scary. Very scary.
Yeah, I'll never be doing this shit alone. I'll put it that way.
There you go. Damn.
Well,
okay.
I was gonna say, is there anything else you want to cover? Do we want to move on to the lightning round?
Do we have lightning round
I
questions?
got a couple lightning round questions. We always do a dumb lightning round at the end where we just kind of ask really stupid questions. We don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, there's one last thing I want to say, and then absolutely. Yeah. So all this we've talked about with breath play, with vacuum bondage, how intense these scenes get, and the kind of things that happen in these scenes. And I've played with a lot of people. I'm very big on kink. I'd much prefer kink over sex. So that doesn't, I haven't fucked half the town. I've suffocated half of it. But
nice.
One thing I want to say is everything that I do involving this, especially breath play, always requires trust. And this cannot happen without absolute trust and consent. If the person has not given consent for breath play, I'm not going to give them breath play. They have to enthusiastically consent to it. People ask me all the time, oh, but back beds look cool, but I like to be able to breathe. I'm like, you can. When I put you in it, you're going to be able to breathe, and I'm not going to do any breath play whatsoever unless you ask me. Otherwise, I absolutely will not. And if you're playing with somebody and you don't know them, or you're establishing a play partner relationship and they want to force breath play on you, that's a red flag. Yeah. That's something that should never be forced on somebody. That's where consent is absolutely key. Communication is key. Trust is king. And if there's no trust there, don't do it.
That's actually kind of interesting. Are there like people that had to get like excommunicated from the scene? Like, were there people like taking advantage of other people in that sense? Like, maybe it's not like obviously like a sexual assault, but it is taking advantage of somebody in those situations. Are there people that get like kicked out basically?
Oh yeah. Most definitely. There was somebody a while back who I definitely won't mention names here or too much specifics, but
let's put him on blast. Fuck this dude. No, I'm kidding.
First name, last name, address, social, right now.
Yeah, there was somebody that violated a form of consent. It didn't involve breath play, but they violated a different form of consent, and I found out about it. And yeah, I was like, "You're done." Like,
fuck yeah.
I'm gonna have a talk with you, and in the future, we're gonna re-explore some options, but I'm going to mentor you first, before we talk about that, because violating consent is not okay. And one of the great things about the furry gear community is it's really good at self-policing. Those kind of people don't last long, especially in this community here. If somebody is not trustworthy or they violated consent in some way, they're not welcome. I had somebody else who violated consent through the vetting process by asking too many questions, and they ended up getting banned from that entire event and the dungeon that hosted that event because of that, which is good because it puts that dungeon's reputation at risk as well. Yeah. So yeah, trust, that's handled very swiftly and severely, if necessary. Like we don't put up with that shit, because you're literally dealing with somebody's life in your hands, mentally, emotionally, physically. So take it seriously.
What does that vetting process look like, though, for you guys? Like,
so it all kind of depends. So, for instance, I'm the admin of the gear chat here, and pretty much, the way it works is the gear parties are open invite only within this chat, and the people who we allow into this chat are people that, they have to be local, they have to be kinky. Like, I don't let people in that chat who are just in that chat to go hook up with somebody. Like, that's not, there are people that, I run their names by other people. There are other people who run their name by me. And usually that's all it takes, because we all know each other. really well. You know, it's a 3 degrees of furry. And as long as that all checks out, then yeah, like, hey, welcome to the group. We've only ever had to kick out somebody once because of a negative association with another group. And once we found out about that, there were a couple of other red flags, but once we found out about that, we're like, yeah, we need to get this guy out of here. Because we like to make sure that, you know, it's what we have is a very special thing. There's a very special circle of trust there because of the people that are there. You know, we're all into this for the same thing. We all want to enjoy the kink, and we want to do it safely in a comfortable environment with others who are the same. So all this to say, it sounds very structured and it sounds like there's a lot of rules, but that's the psychological aspect of it.
It
but
sounds
reality,
kind of,
we have a lot of fun.
It sounds vibes based. Like if the vibes are bad, like you kind of go with that. Like, well, you mentioned like this, like a person was associated with another group. Obviously you don't have to like get into specifics, but like there's like certain groups if they're associated with, you won't want them in yours. Is that like a privacy concern or a safety concern or?
Any and all of the above, yeah, because, you know, somebody's address is posted in the chat. So people know to go to that house. You know, people are engaging in kink because our play parties, we play hard. There are no, unless we're at a dungeon or something, there's no breath play rules or anything like that. Like it's pretty no limits. Now, clearly there are going to be some things that we're generally not into, but yeah, otherwise it's pretty no limit. We go hard. But it's only because we all know each other so well, and we all have this trust. And it doesn't have to do with like having some sort of specially curated social club. That's absolutely not what it's about. It's just a matter of, you know, being a good, trustworthy person. You don't even have to have gear. You don't have to be in anything. You just have to want to explore and to understand the importance of that trust and consent.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, seems to be working out, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, it's been incredible. Honestly, I could not be more grateful. The community here is wonderful. It's been growing exponentially since I finally found it 4 years ago. You know, I've done my best to help grow it as well, and I don't really have anything bad to say about it. We have a truly incredible group. I mean, no group ever is perfect, but we do a damn good job. We really do. We do a damn good job of watching after each other, and and you know, we're pretty tight knit. It's an amazing experience.
Sounds like it. Sweet.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
We're ready for the lightning round.
You want to try this lightning round?
Let's do lightning round.
Quickie lightning round. All right, everybody, lightning round.
Lightning round.
Lightning round. Ka-chow.
We need a theme song for the lightning round.
Ka-chow, that's it.
Ka-chow.
We could license the rights to Thunderstruck.
Oh,
there you go.
That'd be a great idea.
Lightning round. Okay.
Who wants to go first?
I think Marquise.
I thought you were leading the charge.
Sure, I got a couple. I did. So you talked about produce bags and shopping bags. Do you ever get turned on when you're going shopping at the grocery store because of them?
Thank God, no, because I would be losing my damn mind.
Yeah.
However, there is a particular hardware store that I will not name that has certain bags that are thicker than grocery bags, quite a bit thicker. Yeah, those bags in particular are fun because they're my favorite to use. So yeah, when I go there, I tend to ask for a few extra.
Nice.
Extra, maybe double bag everything.
Yeah, double bag my like little fucking cup.
Yeah,
double
bag
all
you go
these
in
nuts.
there, what do you buy?
Just some screws and gets 10 bags.
Yeah. You have to throw the trail.
Usually pipe fittings and shit to rig up some sort of crazy breath play contraption.
Yeah.
Marquise, did you have a question?
Yeah, don't skip my lightning round, please.
I wasn't playing that.
You ever just hold your breath to get through the day?
Yeah, every now and then, just for a little bit, you know, just to get that little tingly.
That's nice. That's fun. You know, that's something you can do kind of anywhere. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And it's actually another great way to experience breath play on your own. Like, hey, what's the sensations that you get of being in a rebreather bag? Well, hold your breath.
Interesting. Okay.
So that just made me think of a lightning round, and this might be a little bit too personal. And if it is, don't feel free not to answer it. But have you ever came just from breath play without any physical contact?
That's a good one.
I actually did once. It's extremely, extremely difficult for me to come hands free. Very, very difficult. And
I'm kind of similar.
Yeah, there was one time when see if I can recall it correctly. It was a whole mind-blowing experience. But there was one time. So one of my unique little breath play things is I made an inflatable collar, and I made 11 more of them and sold them to some friends. And it goes around the neck, and it's a PVC bladder made out of discharge hose. And it goes around the neck, and it's strapped on with strap and buckle and a little pump and hose. And when you pump it up, it's 360 degrees of squeeze around your neck. And it does the same thing as a sleeper hold if it's pumped up enough. And so it'll make you pass out. It's a very, very fun piece of gear. Because it also does not block your airway in order to make that happen.
Okay.
So
you can still breathe. It just suffocates you, though.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's called a blood choke, basically, because you're just cutting off circulation.
Okay.
It's a much safer way to pass out. But so I had that around my neck. I also had a rebreather bag on, and I was in full bondage, tied to my spine board, completely unable to move. I had this really wonderful, super shiny, sticky, thick plastic rain jacket on, and I'd had this ever-loving shit poppered out of me, and I was pushed really hard, and breath play during rebreathing, and I almost passed out. Then I was given air again, and when I was given air, I came.
Hell yeah!
Sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
Was it the best
it very
orgasm?
Much so was. It went everywhere.
Is that top three best blowing a load?
It's definitely high up there. I've had some experiences, but it was definitely high up there.
Nice. Wild.
Any more lightning round questions from you
guys? Do you keep track of your top three? I can't think of my top three.
I can probably think. I
can think of some good
I think
ones.
there's one. I think there's. I
can think of some good ones, but not my top three.
But those would probably be the top three. Then,
Yeah,
if you can remember them years later, I think that's up there. That's top 10 probably.
Anyway,
let's make a Sporkle quiz about top 10 comes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more lightning round?
I had one, but something just happened when you said those words. And
top 10 comes.
Just wrecked my brain.
That is grammatically correct, but okay. Is that everything, guys?
I got one last. I got one last one here.
Okay, I remembered mine too. I'll go after you.
Actually, I got two, but do you like
three
UFC? Do you
that's
do you
my
ever
fucking question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Marquise. Do you get off on watching people get choked out in like UFC?
So oddly enough, there's actually a compartmentalization. There's a separation. I think part of it was because as a kid, when I was younger, I got bullied and I got into fights a lot. And I'm big on also self-defense. I've got to know a little bit of martial arts. I'm definitely no black belt or anything, but I know some stuff. And because of that, I don't ever want to get in a situation where I have to defend myself and then I'm turned on by having to save my own life from somebody. So.
Excellent point.
That might be a good combo. That might be a top three though. Honestly, imagine fighting for your life, winning, and then just nothing. Wouldn't that be pretty good?
Dude, the ultimate high and low. That it doesn't get any better than that.
Exactly.
The best victory lap.
I mean, that is like that's like when you're in a breath play scene fighting for your life, and then you come right at the end when you're like, oh, I'm gonna make you tap out. Nope, don't tap out yet.
Damn.
Yeah,
oh, man.
Okay.
Did you have one?
No,
Marquise?
you stole it.
No, that was literally my question.
Sorry,
I was gonna ask
I'm
if
sorry.
you knew proper holds and stuff like that, but
Then this is gonna be the last lightning round question. Have you ever had a scary experience with somebody who had an unknown latex allergy?
Oh.
Thankfully, no. Everybody I've played with has been aware of whether or not they have an allergy. But if it's somebody new to latex, I've played with many who have. Thankfully, I haven't experienced that yet. That reminds me, actually, thank you for that. Having just a general rule of thumb, it's a good idea to have an EpiPen on you in the event that somebody does have a severe allergic reaction.
That makes sense.
As a possible means out, but you have to, make sure that they're not going to have a bad reaction to epinephrine either.
Yeah.
Can you just buy EpiPens? Can you just hit up?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not cheap, but yeah, you can.
You want to try one?
That might be
I'd
their
take a hit
too.
of epinephrine.
I'll take a hit of Epi.
Let's try it out. Just see what happens.
I got smelling salts in my house too. Let's get those too. Yeah.
Because it's like a stimulant, right?
I mean,
or am I tripping
it's
about
not supposed to be like a fun stimulant. It's I think it's like kind of like stressful almost. It sounds like. I don't know. Or norepinephrine. I don't know. Okay.
All right. I think that covers a lot. I mean,
fucking right, dude.
That covers a lot. That was a great episode, honestly.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. Seriously.
I think you did a great job representing what's going on in your community and what you like to do. Do you want to plug anything? Like your Twitter or what you're doing at these cons and stuff like that?
Or any good companies that you want to help them grow a little bit?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. I appreciate that opportunity. Thank you. So my Twitter is Chronic Orca AD, and it's a closed account. So one of my big things is you got to say that you're 18 plus in your profile. And you can even send me a DM because I'll answer my DMs. Not every day, but yeah, Chronic Orca AD. It's a closed account. I'll approve your follow, and then you can follow me and see all the fun shit I do. And a lot of it, vast majority, is suffocation. Big shout out to Vanilla Kink in Denver, owned by Jessica. She's a member of the Syndicate Rubber community here. And Vanilla Kink is one of Denver's only stores that does sell latex. And they sell a variety of really cool shit. And the person who runs that store is an amazing individual. She's incredible. Also, I currently have plans. I'm working on to hopefully host a kink convention in Denver in 2025, 2026.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, that's
if that happens, we should go down to that. If that happens, we should go down to it. That'd be cool. Do it as a group. Awesome. We could do like some live podcasting and interview people on the spot. Maybe even throw some video in the mix if people wanted.
Oh, you guys are absolutely.
I know you sound so inviting on the phone. Like I'm not even like into this, but you sound so inviting. I'll just go do it anyway.
Well, no, it sounds like it would be a unique experience just to go see all that.
Down anyway.
I mean, you could try it out. Yes. I wouldn't try it out personally. That's not. I have no interest in that. Thank you for that, but I couldn't do that. That freaks me out.
Yeah.
And then I'll leave you guys with this too. One of my top 3 hottest fantasies was my friend coming over. He goes by Numerix. He's in Seattle. I have one of his 2 pool toy suits. They're the only 2 designed after his persona ever made. They're not mass produced. He gave me this one, or he sold me this one because it's too small for him. One of my top 3 fantasies come to life ever was him showing up in his custom persona pool toy suit to my house. I got blazed out of my fucking mind, and for 2 days I could not leave him alone. I could not let go of him. I got to actually experience being hugged by a living pool toy, and it was one of the greatest experiences ever.
God damn. So you guys just spent 2 days just together, and you said you got blazed? You just smoked hella weed?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Fucking nice.
It was amazing.
Wait, did he actually show up to your front door in the inflatable suit?
He couldn't come to my door in that suit because I'm on a ranch and like there's weeds and shit and stickers. But yeah, he came inside and then got on his suit, and then I crawled all over him. And I'll send you guys some pictures. It was a really good time.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh, that sounds like a great time.
Yeah, is it beneficial living on your ranch, like that seclusion? Like, do people often like come take a trip out?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. One of the ways that one of the things that I would tell people is, especially if they're friends that are looking to explore some hardcore kink, I was like, one of the great things about my place is nobody can hear you scream.
Nice, dude. That is a fucking selling point, dude. God damn. Awesome. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. So,
hell yes.
We seriously appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out last minute and helping us out, and send other guests our way. I would love to have more guests on.
Yeah.
If anybody that has anything that they want to share, just send them our way.
Yeah, I can totally do that. I love collaboration and education. I love it. It all sounds corny. It's like a Miss America pageant shit, but I mean. It's true. Anybody that knows me knows I'll back what I say.
And miscongeniality over
well, that's
here.
kind of the whole purpose of the podcast, is to explore it and like break down the stigma behind it too, and make it like less taboo of a
That's
topic.
what you say. That feels corny, but I think
it's fun. It's a good
just
time.
Chat casually about it.
Yeah.
Like people I don't know.
Make it a bit more casual.
It can feel weird to approach somebody when you have questions about something. So I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate the shit out of you guys doing this. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I hope you like it, and I hope we can keep doing it for a long time, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I am very honored. I feel very honored to be a guest on your show today, guys.
Oh,
that's
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a big deal. The hottest fucking podcast out. No, I'm kidding.
I knew it was going to be spicy.
I don't know. It's fun, but yeah, no, seriously, it's been a pleasure. We appreciate your time.
we'll be in touch. You have a great day, man. Great weekend.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you guys so very much.
Oh, we will.
See you later, Chronic.
All right, absolutely.
Interesting fetish. This one was I had seen some stuff before, especially like the vac bed.
Yeah, it's just always like there in the background somehow when you picture fetishes. There's always something like that going.
Oh yeah,
down.
because it's visually it is very it's shocking.
It's very easy to identify as kinky.
Yeah, you know it's sex related.
Yep.
It's just yeah. His whole situation sounds like it feels like I said professional. It's like very it feels like no nonsense. It's not like casual amateur shit. It's like they know what to do, how to do it. They're kink.
He was like the heart rate guy. He just knew like he was so good at fucking hitting the points of safety literally every moment that he could.
Constantly reiterating trust.
So good. Yes.
Trust, it's a thing, guys.
Yes. Very, very nice.
When I scheduled in, I'm like, oh, he's going to be just kind of like the same as Satellite, the latex, and we'll talk about pool toys and stuff like that. But then when he started talking about breath play, I'm like, wait, no, this is a totally different thing that we have not even touched on remotely. But thank you, Chronic Orca, for coming on. I think you were super educational about the whole topic, and I love your attitude about everything, and just thank you for sharing that. And I think this was a great episode.
This has been the Whatever You're Into podcast. I am, what was my name? Manny. Signing off with Mesky, Marquise, and Blank. Faith in nothing, wanna put my tender
heart in a blender, watch it man round to a beautiful oblivion. Rendezvous, then I'm through with you.